Welcome to this tutorial for Flicker Free 3. This is a new version of Flicker Free with new settings to correct slower flicker and slow rolling bands. I'm using this in After Effects, but it's also compatible with Premiere, Final Cut, Avid, and Resolve, as well as some other apps that support OpenFX plugins. You can try the demo linked in the description to see how it works in your app and on your footage. The biggest changes in Flicker Free 3 are an increased time radius and a new time step setting, which analyzes a wider range of frames by skipping some frames. Time radius is how many frames Flicker Free is analyzing. When it's set to 10, it's analyzing 10 frames before and 10 frames after each frame of video for a total of 21 frames. In Flicker Free 3, the maximum time radius is increased to 19 frames before and 19 frames after each frame for a total of 39 frames. This lets us detect and fix slower flicker that wasn't fixable in older versions of Flicker Free. So, for example, this clip has some bad flicker, some fast flicker, and these slow rolling bands. Setting the time radius to 10 reduces the overall appearance of the flicker, but I can still see the rolling bands. Increasing the time radius up to 19 reduces the banding a lot more, and I can also use the time step. Time step is a new setting that skips frames when analyzing. If I set time step to 3, it's analyzing the same number of frames, but skipping 3 frames each time. Basically, it's spreading out the frames it's analyzing to cover a larger range. This is particularly useful for shots with no camera movement or that don't have a lot of fast motion. Between these two settings, Flicker Free 3 maxes out at a range of 195 frames versus Flicker Free 2's 21 frames. And there are more potential combinations of settings to fix difficult flicker, like slow rolling bands. This is a shot where older versions of Flicker Free could reduce a lot of the flicker, but I could still see flickering even at the maximum settings. But with the higher time radius and time step, I can remove the flicker completely. Analyzing more frames does increase the render time and the potential that Flicker Free will add motion blur or artifacts to the footage, like you can see here. This can be balanced out with the motion settings, which are detect motion and motion compensation. When trying Flicker Free on your footage, if you have high resolution footage, first you want to reduce the preview resolution or pre-compose or nest your footage in a lower resolution composition or sequence. This is so you're not spending a lot of time rendering full resolution frames when we're just trying to get a baseline for how well it works. Also, temporarily disable any other effects. You don't want each frame Flicker Free analyzes to also need to process other effects, and set a short in and out point range to render. You can get a good idea of how well your current settings will work in just a few seconds. Flicker Free has a variety of presets named after common types of flicker. You can try these on the short section of your footage to see how the results look. The settings under Use Caution have a large time radius and/or motion compensation settings that add a lot of render time. You should generally try these last, since the less aggressive settings may work just as well and render faster and use less memory. A good way to test if it's possible to remove the flicker on your clips is to apply Flicker Free, set detect motion to off, and set the time radius to the maximum of 19. If you have something like a time lapse, you can set the sensitivity up as high as 30, but for something like rolling bands, you'll want to leave it at 3. See if that removes the flicker. And in this shot, it does. I do see a lot of motion blur on my subject here, and that's what we can try and fix in the next step. If doing this doesn't remove the flicker, you can try increasing the time step as well, up to 5. If that doesn't remove the flicker, it's probably not fixable, or it may need to be fixed with more than one pass of Flicker Free. Some settings are great for fixing flicker, but add a lot of ghosting or artifacting around moving objects. The trick is finding the right balance with the motion settings. When testing the motion settings, make sure to use the lowest time step and time radius that still remove the flicker. Then set detect motion to good fast and render. This may work pretty well, like with this clip, or it may bring some of the flicker back. In that case, set detect motion to off and try with motion compensation on. You can also try both at the same time. Motion compensation in particular does add a lot of render time. If this doesn't work, turn off motion compensation and then set detect motion to slow. This unlocks the mask threshold and mask radius settings. Set the mask threshold to something like 3 or 5, and try mask radius values of 5, 10, 30, or 60. See if one of these combinations works. Again, make sure the time radius is as low as you can get it while still removing the flicker, and that you're testing by rendering only a short section of the footage. You can use detect motion slow and motion compensation together, but these settings both use a lot of memory, so make sure to save your project, since even fast PCs can struggle with these settings, especially at 4K resolution or higher. So the settings I have did a pretty good job reducing the banding, but didn't completely remove it. If I try to increase the time step or try different motion settings, it looks worse. So what I'm going to do instead is get the best settings I can, and then do a second pass of flicker free by exporting the clip with flicker free applied to a high quality intermediary format like ProRes, and then import the deflickered clip and apply flicker free again. You don't want to apply flicker free to the same clip twice at the same time because this can cause your machine to run out of memory. Now I'm applying flicker free to this already deflickered clip, and I'm going to use slightly different settings, and the bands are pretty much gone. Sometimes one pass of the plugin is fixing certain aspects of the flicker, and the second pass is fixing a different aspect, and sometimes each pass is just reducing the flicker more. It really just depends on the footage and the type of flicker and the settings. Flicker free can fix flickering in a time lapse, slow motion, drone footage, rolling bands, flickering screens in a shot, and more. Check out the free demo at digitalanarchy.com to test it on your footage. And if you want us to help you find the best settings for your footage, you can send a sample clip to cs@digitalanarchy.com.